So what I wanted to talk about in this video was a weird trade kind of situation thing that had brought itself up over the past few days. You see, when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks, I think the majority of fans are on board with this roster, and they're ready, you know? Like, I don't think many fans outside of maybe, you know, some of the more extreme ones out there want to desperately see any extra moves made. Sure, it would be nice if they went out and got themselves another top forward or another right-handed defenseman. It would be nice, it'd be cool, but like, I don't think anybody is absolutely banging pans together and saying, hey, Patrick Allvin, you still need to make a trade, the roster's not done yet. Maybe aside from signing Artur Silovs, the Vancouver Canucks can do that, but aside from him, this team is pretty much set, good to go. You know, there are enough young guys in the system that could break onto the scene. There are enough older veteran guys that are already at the top of the lineup. There are already players that we are projecting to being the top lines and everything, so it's okay, right? But if you wanted to talk about some trades that the team could make, I wanted to talk about two names that have been popping up here and there over the past few days. Firstly, let's go over to this article on CanucksArmy.com from Clark Corson yesterday. This is the piece right here, Moving Tucker Poolman's Contract and Other Off-Season Updates, Canucks Conversation. Now, you can see from the title, this is the Canucks Conversation show, whose latest episode had David Quadrelli and Patrick Johnston discussing the Vancouver Canucks cap situation and the potential impact of trading away Tucker Poolman. Now, Tucker Poolman is a name that you probably haven't heard in a while, because he hasn't played for the Vancouver Canucks in a while. The last time he suited up for a team game was on October 18th, 2022. Ever since then, he has been on the LTIR, and, you know, I mean, he has been getting paid by Vancouver, $2.5 million a year till the end of 24-25. That's LTIR money right now for the team. But if you go over to the Canucks Conversation podcast and see what it was they were talking about, this is the scoop here from PJ. $2.5 million is a lot to work with. You can talk about finding a centerman who is not Pia Suter. I think Suter will be fine. He ran into some bad luck playing with Joshua and Garland before he got hurt, but he's a sharp player and he makes things better when he's on the ice. The Miller and Besser line was so much better in terms of puck possession when he was with them. That said, if somehow, in this dream scenario, you're able to move off Tucker Poolman's contract, you'd like to use that on a forward or a defenseman who can actually play for your team. There's not a lot left in the market, so we're not necessarily talking about signing a player, but you can start looking at trades and moving things around. Getting Poolman off the books creates so many great possibilities for the Vancouver Canucks, and that's probably the reason why Allvin hasn't been able to find anybody to take the Poolman problem off of his hands. Now, PJ is highlighting just exactly what money could be freed up here with some sort of a trade, whether you trade Poolman to a team that's already at the cap ceiling, that needs an extra guy or two to go into LTIR territory to make them cap compliant, or if you're trading for, let's just say, a guy from another team that is really cheap and maybe has more value but can actually play. Of course, that kind of trade is a dime a dozen because you're not going to see too many teams willingly take on a contract like Poolman's unless it actually helps them. But there are opportunities for the Vancouver Canucks to do some damage if they get that money freed up. Now, the rest of the Canucks Conversation article goes over some updates on other players. They talk about what names could fit, Oliver Shillington. They go over Jonathan Lekkerimäki and what he's going to be able to do with this team, potentially this upcoming season, who really knows. But I wanted to talk more so about trades, because for Tucker Poolman, I mean, if you go over to capfriendly.com, which doesn't exist anymore, sorry, we're going over to puckpedia.com, my bad. There are some teams that are way over the salary cap. Washington's got $14 million over the cap. Vegas, 3.6. Colorado, 1.3. Florida's at $933,000. Philadelphia, $830K, Oilers, $354K, and then there are some teams that are barely close to getting there. The Predators are just under the cap with $596,000 remaining. There are some teams here whom, if the Vancouver Canucks could trade Tucker Poolman to them, they would be able to get back under the salary cap. Now, Tucker Poolman is not a one-stop shop solution. There are other ways you can navigate the cap ceiling, but this is an idea to think about. So for Patrick Allvin, of course, he recognizes that other GMs may need this, but other GMs know that trading Tucker Poolman away from Vancouver would help out Patrick Allvin too, so maybe teams don't want to do that because of it. Either way, Tucker Poolman is not the only Vancouver Canucks name that has been sort of tossed around there as a potential trade target or trade option for the team. What I also wanted to do was refer to some of the extra Marty Necas talks with the Carolina Hurricanes, because for some reason, and you're going to have to believe me on this one, whenever it comes to Marty Necas, the Hurricanes, and the Vancouver Canucks getting in there, for some reason, most Canucks fans seem to think that the player that would get this kind of a trade done is Nils Hoglander. If you go over onto Twitter, you search Hoglander, Necas, you'll see a lot of people going out there and saying, oh yeah, it should be Hoglander, trade away Hoglander for this kind of a guy, Hoglander's this, he's that, he's whatever. And I don't know, I just wanted to respond to that idea, first and foremost, because I feel like Nils Hoglander is one of these more underrated pieces at this point, even though he had a season that was, like, honestly out of this world incredible. He only had 2 points, 1 goal and 1 assist in 11 games in the playoffs, so that was a little underwhelming. But in the regular season, 36 points in 80 games played. He had 24 goals on top of that, and all of them were at even strength. This guy was one of the top 5v5 goal players in the entire league. And it becomes kind of crazy to acknowledge that when you consider the fact that he's so young, that his contract is only seeing him making $1.1 million till the end of this upcoming year, and he wasn't really played with Pettersson or Miller or Besser for a majority of the year. He had time with Petey, yes, but it wasn't ever like, okay, he's stapled to that Pettersson line. Pettersson was rotating around with Lafferty, Mikheyev, Kuzmenko even for a time, so there wasn't really as much of a bond there on the ice than there was, let's say, with Miller or Besser or Joshua or Garland. Those duos stuck together. Hoglander-Petey wasn't really there for the entire year. So Hoglander still produced a hell of a lot of goals, and sure, you can say that for next season, it's a lot more projectable that he does not do that same thing again. He doesn't get 24 goals, but he is still young at 23 years old. He'll be 24 by the end of the calendar year, and there still is opportunity for him to grow, round out his game a little bit more, and just work on some of those extra details that could allow him to consistently be a 15 to 20 goal scorer every single year. Like, I'm just going out there from the perspective saying that I don't think a 24-goal season is guaranteed next year, especially all at even strength. So if Hoglander is able to round out the rest of his game, let's say he becomes a power play specialist, or he's able to utilize that space a lot better as his career goes on, there will be more opportunities for Hoglander to progress. And so because he was already in this tier this previous season, I don't see the point in trading him at all. Reported ideas are like Hoglander and a multiple amount of picks or whatever for Marty Necas, and sure, while Necas does improve the team, I feel like if you really wanted to leverage your assets, keeping Hoglander at 1.1 mil and trading away those picks that you would have traded away in the Hoglander for Necas trade anyway for somebody that could improve your team alongside of Hoglander. So there are, you could say, smarter ways to trade away your assets if you're really intent on acquiring some extra guys. But you might not be able to get a Marty Necas unless you depart with a Nils Hoglander or something. I mean, honestly, Hoglander seems like the kind of guy that Carolina would be coveting anyway, which makes total sense based off of their model and their style. He's just that kind of a dog, man. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the ideas of either a Tucker Poolman or a Nils Hoglander trade, and whether or not this actually makes sense to you, whether or not you could see this happening. If you're Patrick Alvin, what are your opinions on your options here, and what other avenues do you think the team should take? If you're a fan of any other team watching this video, then would you like to get a Nils Hoglander or a Tucker Poolman on your squad? And if you are one of these teams that is like really close to the cap ceiling, or you're already over it, do you think that a Tucker Poolman acquisition is what you need to get things going forward? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.